This is the first M1, a film camera. And this is the new Olympus OM-D E-M1X. This is my first impression on just announced new Olympus camera. So, be sure to watch it. Hi there, I'm Peter Forsgaard, an Olympus visionary from Helsinki, Finland. And before we get into the specs and my first impression of the new Olympus OM-D E-M1X camera, please consider to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell so you get notified when there's a new video online. I post videos twice a week on Tuesdays and on Fridays. And my channel is all about you getting to be a better photographer. But now, let's get into the specs and my first impression of the new Olympus OM-D E-M1X. This is the first video of a series about this new camera, and I had a chance to test it during the Christmas holidays, and Olympus Finland was the one that made it possible for me to test this, and thank you so much for Olympus Finland. They're not paying me to give my first impression of the new camera. I mostly do videos about stuff that might be interesting to you, to my subscribers. It says sample on the body and the firmware is B0, so it's not the final version yet. First time I took it to my hands, it seemed to be really big. But comparing it to the OM-D E-M1X with the HL9 battery grip, actually not that big. But of course with the E-M1X you can get the battery grip off and it's a lot smaller camera. Next thing you noticed is that the front wheel or the dials are embedded into the body, so they are covered, and so they won't be accidentally stuck in anywhere when you do action photography or walk into nature. The feel is about the same. It feels really good and sturdy, these wheels, and it's actually pretty well positioned on the backside. And then the next thing you realize is that it feels exactly the same when you feel it like this. The grip is designed so that there is no difference, and of course you have all the knobs and there's also the dials on this battery grip of course also, and yeah, it feels really good in your hand. And the third thing you realize is that the knobs are feeling a little bit different. Like the ISO has these little knobs around it, so you can feel it with your finger that it's the ISO button, and then you can feel if the exposure compensation button is a little higher up, so you won't have a mistake when you touch these buttons and use them without taking your eye off the viewfinder. But then I was starting to looking where are all the customizable buttons, because it doesn't say FN in any of them. But then I realized that of course all these buttons are customizable. There are actually 16 different buttons that you can customize. That's a huge amount of customizing, and I think it's very good that you're able to customize your camera to your likings. And then the layouts of the buttons are a bit different, and the menu button is back here on this side. It used to be over this side, but it's over here. And then you have the card button where you can change the from card 1 to card 2, but I will get back to the card slot different. You got the white balance here, and then you have the ability to lock the battery grips or the other shutter button. But you also have a so-called C-lock where you can customize what things are locked when you have it on C-lock, or you can lock it totally. I think this is also good, another way of customizing your body. And then there is the joystick, or a multi-selector as Olympus calls it. You can control the focus points on this, so turning this, then the focus point moves here, so it's very convenient to change the focus points like this. And of course that has been in some other brands for many years, and I think it's very good that Olympus has it now, because it makes it a lot faster to change your focus point. And the mode dial is also a bit different. They got rid of the art picture modes, and they got rid of the eye mode in this dial. The art modes are still there, but you're not able to choose them from the mode dial, which is really good. Instead they have one more customizable set. You can store your settings in 4 places now: C1, C2, C3 and C4. And then there is a mode called B, which is it used to be bulb in the old times, but now this B mode has the bulb and lifetime and live comp, which is actually for live comp users. This is really good, so you don't have to go to the M mode and choose it as a one shutter speed, which was kind of like a funny way of doing it, but this is a lot better. The new Olympus OM-D E-M1X has 2 memory card slots, which is really good. You can have a really good backup, and it works the same way that you can choose different image formats to different cards. But the difference to the previous model is that both of these memory card slots are UH2 slots, which is really good. So you can use video and you can use Pro Capture and everything with the fast memory cards. It doesn't matter which memory card slot you use. And then there is also one good improvement is it has something to do with the weather sealing. You open the compartment from a little knob here and it opens up, and the memory card slots are like this way here. And then the good thing about this way of constructing the compartment is that you can have a better weather sealing. In this body you can use 2 batteries, and that's good because it has two PIC 8 processors in it, so it's a beast. It's a huge computer. And the battery compartment has also the same kind of latch. You open it up and then you slide it, and you have it in one of these sliders. You have 2 batteries, and then you just put it back and close the door. And what's great about this, that it also can be charged from its USB-C port, which is really good. You will be able to have a external battery to power up your camera and to charge your batteries. And there will be a list of compatible extra batteries or external batteries that Olympus will give and will tell which are compatible with the camera. And also it can be, there it is, it also can be charged and used with AC power with the power adapter AC5. That's not included with the body. And another great feature that they added is that the E-M1X has GPS built in. The default setting is that it's turned off, so you have to turn it on, and then it will record the GPS coordinates of your photograph or the place you took the photograph, and it can be shown in the Lightroom in the map. I think this is great. You don't need to have the OE Share app tracking your movements anymore. And I tried it and it works very well. Usually when there's a GPS inside the camera, it usually uses quite a lot of battery, but that remains to be seen. It also have a field sensor which can record the altitude, temperature and all other stuff that usually has been only available in action cameras, and I did not test that. I believe it works the same way as it does in TG Tracker and other action cameras. And I think that's a very good for action photographers and nature photographers to be able to have all the weather conditions and the altitudes and stuff like that stored in the metadata auto file as it is with the GPS coordinates. I think that's a very good and very unique new feature that it has. And of course, like any other new camera should have, this has Wi-Fi. And I did tested the Wi-Fi. It works very well with the OI Share app, even though I could not use all the features that I can do. For example, it's possible to transfer raw images to your mobile phone via the Wi-Fi network that this makes and connects with your camera, with your phone. And I'm not sure if this will be available for other Olympus brands, but with this one you can do it. Of course, it needs to be, the OE Share app needs to be upgraded. So before that, it's not available yet when I was making this video. And then it has Bluetooth, which I did not test either, but it's supposed to work according to Olympus exactly the same way as the EPL9 has. It will make the images easier to transfer to your mobile device, which is really good, and probably saves some battery too, so you don't have to use the Wi-Fi all the time. And also the Wi-Fi can be used in wireless tethering if you make images straight to your computer, and I think that's a good. You don't need the USB port or the USB cord anymore to attach it to your computer. You can do wireless tethering, and that's really good. It's a lot easier to move with the camera and still have the ability to transfer the images straight to your computer. I think this is also a good addition to the huge amount of features that this camera has. The menu looks almost exactly the way it did with the Olympus OM-D E-M1 Mark II. I don't know if it's a good thing, because to be honest, the Olympus menus has been a little messy. It's a bit hard to navigate through the menus. But this is a little bit easier with this one because it has a thing called My Menu where you can store the most used menu items that you have. The thing you do is you have the desired menu open and then the feature, and then you press the record button when the menu is open and set it to your My Menu. And you can set it into 5 different levels. It depends on how often you use them. So if with the one they are in the top and then like 5 is in the end, and I don't have the number of items that you can store there, but it was quite a few. I think it was 5 in every level of these 1 to 5, so it's around 25. But this info is not confirmed, so I'm not exactly sure how many menus or menu items you can store in the My Menus. But I'm glad that Olympus finally made it, and because it's been in other brand cameras for quite some time now, and I'm really glad it's in this, because it makes the menu system a lot easier, where you can store the frequently used items in this, and that is something that I think Olympus should have in all their cameras via firmware updates, and it's probably possible to do that, and I really hope they do, because it's a very handy feature. And then there is this very unique feature called Live ND, which is actually a built-in ND filter system inside the camera. It's not the traditional way where you turn the ND filters on from a knob like a lot of regular big video cameras have, but it's a simulation of that. So it works pretty much the same way, or the idea is the same that Live Composite did to long exposure photography. This is Live ND does the same thing to ND filters, and I think it's a massively great idea, and I'm really happy that the R&D department in Olympus is actually thinking about the photographers and not just engineers, but because I had a chance to test the ND live, of course, when I had the camera for test for a short time, and it's a unique. It's hard to explain, but as you can see from the screen, what it does, it gives you the live view of the effect, what it does when you have a longer shutter speeds when photographing moving objects. And it's a great way of making images of waterfalls and the traditional way where you might need a longer exposure, even though you don't have the ND filter on, because always if you put something in front of the lens, it will degrade the image quality. But with the ND filter simulated, it does not do that. And also I used it and tried it to see if I can get rid of people when they're walking, so that they don't show in the picture, and it works really nicely. Of course, there are some limitations, because you cannot use all the shutter speeds with this, and you have 5 different neutral density filter options on this camera. It's a bit limited in some places because of the restriction on the shutter speeds, but it's a useful feature, and I'm glad they made it. And another really big improvement is the AF system. I think the OM-D E-M1X had a pretty good autofocus system, but this is supposed to be a lot better. And I'm not an action photographer, or I don't do nature photography, animals, flying birds and stuff, so I'm not really used to testing how the AF works, because most of my subjects are quite stationary, and I don't do, as I said, the action and moving subject. But with this one, for action photographers, this is a huge thing. What makes it huge is the ability for the camera to learn new things. This camera has been taught to recognize cars in motorsports especially, but it recognizes regular cars, I tested it, and trains and airplanes. And it uses artificial intelligence and deep learning to learn these things. So in the future firmware updates, this camera can learn new forms and new objects to track, and that, I think, it's amazing. And think about if they could teach this camera what a bird looks like. What would that do to bird photography? That would be totally radical, totally unique, and I just don't believe that it can do that. But it's a great thing, and I bet the action photographers and the nature photographers are going bananas about that feature. It's phenomenal. In the special menu A3 there is a place where you can choose which objects the camera will recognize and track and focus on. And in special menu A3 there's also a new option where you can customize the size of your AF area. It can be customized almost to any size that's possible with the AF points. The AF system uses contrast and phase detect, and it has 121 cross-point focus points. The sensitivity is -6 at f1.2, which is quite good. And high resolution image came to Olympus cameras with the OM-D E-M5 Mark II. And then it was of course in the E-M1 Mark II also. You could not take high-res images handheld. But guess what? With this you can. It gives you a 50 megapixel handheld high-res image, which is huge. And it works really good, as you can see from this picture, even when there are some moving objects. Of course it looks a bit different than a regular exposure, but well, you could use this image. And of course with the tripod you get an 80 megapixel high-res image. But I think it's a great feature to an add-on the high-res, even though nobody buys this camera for the megapixels. They buy it for the usability and the size and all the great features. But still, I think it's a good option to have if you sometimes, like me, need some more megapixels. And I have it, and I think it's a great thing. And now you can do it handheld, which is remarkable. Olympus has always had a very good image stabilizer. The OM-D E-M1 Mark II had 5.5 stops, and then with the Sync IS it was 6.5. And when the E-M1 Mark II came, Setsuya Kataoka from Olympus said, and I quote, "The in-body stabilization itself gives 5.5 stops and the Sync IS gives 6.5 stops with OES lenses. 6.5 stops is actually the theoretical limitation at the moment due to the rotation on Earth interfering with the gyro sensor." So the Olympus representative said that it's impossible at the moment to have more than 6.5 stops of stabilization. But guess what? This has 7.5. Somehow Olympus got around that theoretical limitation. But if there's a theoretical limitation on Earth, how about the International Space Station? How many stops of stabilizing would you get in the International Space Station? If there's anybody who knows, please tell me, because I'm not a space expert, but that came into my mind that how about in space if there's a theoretical limitation in Earth? That would be nice to know. If anybody knows, please tell me in the comments. I always thought that the quality of the EVF is all about the screen or the LCD that's inside here, but no, it's also about the lens system. And this EVF have a 4 lens element system, and the magnification is 0.83, which is quite big compared to other brands. And also the LCD panel has 120 frames per second fresh rate, and it's progressive. And I was surprised to hear that many other brands have interlaced EVF, which is not as good as progressive EVF, or the progressive screen that they have there, or the LCD panel. And here are some other technical specs that I have not mentioned yet in this video. Sequential shooting buffer is 287 at 10 frames per second and 103 at 18 frames per second. In RAW, of course, and with AF/AA tracking. Without AF/AA tracking, the sequential shooting is possible up to 60 frames per second, which is the same amount that it was. But as you can probably notice, the buffers are a lot bigger than the E-M1 Mark II has. In focus stacking mode, image count can be selected from 3 to 15 images instead of the fixed amount of 8. A frame is shown in live view to show the final cropping of the stacked image. And this is also a bit different from the E-M1 Mark II. And especially to see the final cropping of the image in focus stacking is really good. Because in E-M1 Mark II you could not see the final image because it was cropped by 7%. The promised shutter count on the new E-M1X is 400,000, which is a huge amount, and it's about the same in every pro grade cameras with other brands also. And anti-flickering shooting is quite interesting. The camera detects the peaks of the light, and it will only fire the shutter at the peak of a light when you have the anti-flicker feature on. And of course you can turn it off, and here is a chart that shows what it actually means. Olympus says that the E-M1X has the best waterproof and splashproof and freeze-proof on the market, and that's including all the cameras that there are on the market. And I can believe that because it's been improved by the different mechanisms on the doors of these places. You have insulation or protection here, when you close it, it's totally sealed. And the same thing with the battery compartment. When you open it, it's totally sealed. And also I believe that setting the front or the front and back dials embedded in the body like this, and I think that makes it also a lot easier to make it more weatherproof. And that's also good news, because as you probably figured it out, this is for action shooters and nature shooters, and when they do that, it's sometimes a bad weather. So when you have a really good weather sealing, it doesn't matter when you make the images, because in bad conditions you can get really interesting images. Dust reduction on the sensor has been improved massively. The possibility to get dust on your sensor is minimal. The ISO range is from 200 to 25,600 ISO, but it also has extended ISO low 64 and low 100. I did not test the image quality, what it looks like when you make images with 64 compared to ISO 200. Of course the exposure is a bit different, and the F number can be lower, but otherwise I did not test the image quality yet. But I will get back to those in the later videos in the spring, when I actually can really use this camera a lot more. The sensor has 20 megapixel and is a live MOS sensor. Of course other features like keystone comp, multiple exposure, pro capture, eye priority detect, AF are all there, and of course, as I mentioned, live comp is still there, of course. Those are really good features that Olympus cameras have. But where does this fall into the lineup of cameras? Is this replacing something or not? You have the EM10 series, which is for entry level, then you have the EM5 series, which is for the serious photo hobbyist, and then you have the EM1 Mark II for the pros, and this actually goes in line with that camera. So this is not replacing any other OMD camera. This is only an additional camera to the pro lineup of OMD cameras. And I think it's a very good addition to the pro cameras. As you can see in this, features have all been targeted to action photographers and nature photographers. The OMD EM1 Mark II has its place in the lineup because it's a bit smaller and more usable if you do just everyday shooting, street photography, etc, etc. This might not be your choice, but of course for action photographers, nature photographers, this is a great addition. All in all, Olympus has taken the right direction on this camera, I think. It's targeted, as I said, for action and nature photographers, and in that sense the improvement in autofocus and the artificial intelligence and deep learning is a great, huge leap in camera technology. And as I already said, that I hope that they will start teaching this camera new objects and things to track. That would be great. And also the improved stabilizer is huge. To get 7.5 stops of stabilizing it's mind-blowing. Well, what about the size then? As I said in the beginning, that the first thing you notice is actually the huge size, even though it's not actually much bigger than the EM1 Mark II with the HLD9 battery grip. But of course, if you want to carry around a small light camera, this might not be for you. In this short test I did not come across any bad things about this new camera. But most likely I will address if I can find any bad things about this, and after I actually will get one. I probably most likely will buy one of these, because the improvement in the image stabilizer, the handheld high-res shot is a good addition to many things. And then of course the video features are improved on this one also, as you could probably figure that out already, that they are also improving that side of the camera. But I will talk about the video features in the next video. I do very seldom any action photography or nature photography, so for me the AF in the EM1 Mark II is totally enough. But if you are an action or travel photographer, you might want to consider this OM-D E-M1X. Well, what about the price? They say it's around 3,000 euros, which is a lot of money, but of course you also get lots and lots of great features on this beast. Hey, this was the first video about the new Olympus OM-D E-M1X. In my next video I will talk about the video features on this. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now!